Hi, this is CJ Miller. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I'm here to show off some things. Uh, First off, we are right across the river from beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana, in Northwest Louisiana. So come check us out. Now, so we have a great store, Excalibur, and it's a comic book store. And I posted before uh, on this YouTube channel about my love of the franchise, the sci-fi franchise V, which was uh, originated in really as far back as 1982 with the two-part miniseries, and then the following year there was a three-part miniseries that followed up, and where they probably should have, to be honest with you, they probably should have resolved the story because uh, the first miniseries was a two-parter, and it ended on a cliffhanger. Uh, in a way that could conclude the story to let you know, hey, now there's going to be a war. It's just beginning. We've won this battle, but the war is just beginning. And then so the next year, there was a three-part miniseries, and that sort of set the tone for, hey, the final battle where the humans were to win the war. And of course, the big bad villain, the main villain of the villains, uh, uh, escaped in a fighter shuttle from the mothership, heading back towards Earth, or had gotten away, or something like that. So that was sort of the cliffhanger. But the basic thing is that uh, that humans had won. But then they left that open ended because they were bringing back. There were talks for a weekly television series, and they did that. And when they brought back the weekly television series, DC Comics decided to do a uh, comic book series. One of the writers was looking for a comic book series that was, he was looking for an action based uh, comic that was not uh, superhero grounded, you know. And what they decided on, what would work, they could do was this. They could work with the V franchise, uh, and then, because that's what it is, V. And then, of course, there were books in the TV series. They started doing a monthly novelizations that just kind of tie in, but don't necessarily. Uh, they're not necessarily. They don't necessarily drive the plot or anything like that. They're novelizations of other parts of the country other than LA. The comic books mostly tell the story of the LA, the story of the characters in the first in California. And that's the stories of the first couple of series in the comic books. I mean, and the TV series and the mini series. The comic books tell that, and then yeah. So some of the novels touch on that. But anyway, I'm going to show off because I was able to get. I went to Excalibur, and they had a free comic book day, and I went there to explore, the promotional comics. And while I was there, I stumbled across the rack that had the entire V collection. They had like a copy, and it's like the entire copy is there, like the entire series, like 18 comic books from an entire limited run series, because they ran for a limited time, uh, and then when the franchise went off the air, the books, the little drugstore and convenience store books. We had a Circle K's. They were 7-Eleven in my neighborhood back then, and they had really everything. They even had like a rack of like novels, little dime store, drugstore novel type stuff. Uh, and so I was able to get much of my teenage reading, or adolescent into teenage reading, done there. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to show off this. So, yeah, let me pause it for a second. So this is a pretty cool stack. I'll start with this. These are the free ones that I got, and I guess he's got them taped. And get this genteelly taped. I'm not a gentleman. Oh, okay. But yeah, so for the heck of it, free comic book day, Marvel voices. Okay. Um, don't know what it's about. I love the representation that it's not just you know that's one thing I love about comic book characters in general is that there is a wide array of representation. There's typically they really um, they're usually side characters and not main characters, but sometimes you get uh, uh, some variation. Okay, and so I don't know this one. A lot of these are promotional from the companies and to introduce the beginning of or what's coming to fill out, hey, which comic books are being snatched up off the table so that the uh, companies can know which trains to follow with. Venom uh, with Spider-Man is actually a cool character. Um, and of course, I remember that when he was introduced, the symbiote, and then the symbiote begat symbiote and begot symbiote. Very biblical. This was cool. Dawn of DC, Night Terror. So I understand that this is what they're looking at in starting a new um, direction with the DC Justice League, as that they're really kind of go um, with some of this. And this is a special edition and everything with this. So what I'm going to do is actually put this. I'll give these a perusal. If they're interesting, I'll really get into them and read them, and then I will put them away and save them like forever and forever. And so, like 30 years from now, who knows? Maybe they'll be sought after, or maybe they won't. I don't know because there's a barrage of comic book movies right now, and uh, DC is about to change. So this may be. I don't know if this is going to play into the new DC universe. That is being headed up by James Gunn for his 2 chapter run of movies and video games and comics. I don't know if this is included in that uh, or not, but we'll see. Um, and then, but I like it. I mean, the illustration in it is wonderful. Like I'm not exactly keen on what sometimes people do with the Wonder Woman character because, I mean, sometimes she's defeminized a little bit, and being a strong woman does not mean that the character has no physical feminine traits. Like this particular drawing, I hate to say it, and it's not because they portrayed her as being muscle bound. It's just basically she uh, um, almost looks like a man in drag in this particular drawing because of the harshness of the lines. But uh, overall, I'm excited for it, and this is just an introductory, so I don't even know if it's going to get into a whole story. Here we go. Uh, Night Terror. This is what's coming, and Night Terrors 2. So the tie-ins for this, you know, so it'll be a storyline. Will they explore? Will it play with the movies or not? Okay, so anyway, because I'm a big comic book movie person, and then this one, I have no idea what this is. But it looks like a brain with arms and stuff floating around, and it's very horror influence. And I love horror movies too. So I was like, let me check it out. And I liked the artwork and the detail in the drawing. You know, uh, sometimes in comic books, especially these are glossy. These are glossy pages. You'll see when I pull open some of the V's to look into it. Um, some of the pages, they're actually not glossy. They're newsprints. Um, so these probably won't ever increase in value because, but who knows? Um, Spider-Man, and it looks as if, and I could be wrong, that the drawing looks like Mary Jane Watson, but just skimming through it, maybe it's another character. But so you see here, we're getting a great look of the character faces, but the background, there's not really too much detail in what's going on in the background as compared to some of the other books that we've looked at, just going through. But I still really like it. And then this one, I got 7 books from the free table. They were like, the limit is 5, but we really don't care if you get a couple extra, 2 or 3 extra. And I was like, okay, well, I will, there were other ones that I had an interest in, but I want a reason to go back the next time they do free comic. And what I'll do is I will go there and I will buy my comics and things like that when there's, promotional stuff. And so I can maximize my money that way. But this is kind of cool. Because I actually don't have a tremendous amount of money. And I probably, at any given time, so I sort of overdid it today. But I'm in the entire, look at this. These glossy images are amazing, or semi-gloss images, or, yeah. So, like the detailing in some of these, they're a little bit more serious. So this is, like I said, this series, when did it start? I want to say the TV series was 85, so 85. Now, I actually have this one. I have 2 or 3 of these already, and I think I have the first issue. If not, it's definitely on my wish list to buy. But actually, hold on, I'll show you what I already have. All right, so these are some of the ones that I have already owned. And this is the first issue from 1985, issue number 5. There's a... I'm going to have to reseal this. I was really happy. I got it from Second and Charles, ironically, which is it's a secondhand store. This comic book store, Excalibur, they sell new comics and... so this is 3. So I have 1, 5, and 3 of the V series, and I think I have 6. And I knew I had 10. And then, of course, these are some comics that were given to me when one of my older cousins passed on. What did I take out of the cellophane? Hold on. The cellophane was for the free comics here. So, listen, if you want to know if it seems I'm disorganized, let me tell you, I have got a mountain of paperwork that I have to do and work with my bank to because it's time to recertify for my apartment, which is what's the word? It's rent controlled, and so being that it's rent controlled, they submit paperwork to the IRS every year for each unit, regardless of the tenant or their situation or whatever. But that the rent controlled apartments are not being rented to like really affluent people. So yeah. So I have to turn in like this massive amount of paperwork. And it's like, oh my God. So if you could imagine, just comic books get me a little disorganized right here, then you can just imagine what that paperwork's going to look like when I turn it in next week, because it's huge. Like this pack is about this thick, but it's all paper to be filled out. Okay, so what we have, number 1, Number two is pretty awesome, you know. Because one of the things about this is that it did appeal to, you know, young teen boys, you know, and because it was cool. Special effects were awesome on it. You know, people walking around in lizard mask and looking like lizards and spraying people with the venom, and they were real effects. They weren't CGI effects. What they tried to do, and I say it's new. It's really old by now. There was a 2009 reboot that went for 12 episodes, and then there was another season that went for 10 episodes, and you know, they just, because they were doing putting a lot of money into their CGI, they really couldn't do long episodes, and you know, it didn't catch on. You can't catch a fandom with only, like, you know, at that time this was um, you know, short seasons were not the thing. Whereas today you have some mid-season shows that will do well. What I remember about that is that they showed uh, 3 episodes of the V in 2009, and then it went on hiatus for several weeks while they tried to work with their programming and find a spot for it, and then they came back with a one-off episode, which was kind of like, it encapsulated uh, what had happened. It was like a cliff notes of the first 3 episodes, and so, but that episode is not available when you order it, when you buy the uh, V 2009, or you try to stream it or something. That one-off episode is not available. So, what I want to do is get into here and show the detail of some of the paperwork. Now, these were traditional comics. They were newsprint. They're not glossy on the inside. So, but I don't want to open these up. I want to something. These things are sealed, and I'm going to keep them that way. Uh, Maybe I'll get around to reading some of them, but mostly I got them for nostalgia. And something else I'm noticing, there's a difference, and I wonder what was going on, because on a couple of these, or maybe they were printed in different markets, but here the episode is smaller and above the seal, right next to the comic book code seal of approval, which was a self industry censoring board that says, hey, these are, you know, they're okay for family to read, and then that they're not extreme. But in others, the issue number is underneath the price, and the lettering's different and everything. And I wonder what made them make that decision, because some of these, that's what it is, and then some of them are not. And I wonder if they just came from different regions, if they were printed at different printing houses, and that was just you know, the markup. And then some of them are side by side like this, and some of them are like that. So I wonder if what made the decision had to do with where it would fit. Not really, because that could have went either way, you know. But I guess maybe, you know, for graphic design, whichever one was going to look better. That would be my, if I had to answer it, if I just off of guessing or supposition, that's what I would guess. Oh, they just use whichever stamp uh, was going to look better for the continuity and flow, the feng shui of the. But mm, yeah, but so there's an example of 3 different types. Um, Big print up here, and then smaller right here, and then, you know, so it wasn't consistent all the way through on that particular thing, which I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think that makes me even a bigger geek than I thought I was. But yeah, I'm going to show off a little So this one where the page is kind of opened already, that, and I'm gonna have to go through and I'll put it in a Ziploc or something. Um, the visitors are our friends, and you see they're giving us a thumbs down. This is kind of a corny. Out of everything, that's kind of corny. Um, it's like that's really corny. Most of these are very serious, and they don't go to the campiness of it. See how this one? It's like this is a character Elias, and I don't know who the uh, female is, but it's obviously a two-parter. Fantastic Freedom Fighting final issue. Okay, and this one, what I remember about this final issue is that it ends. It takes off. This comic book right here ends, and the very last episode of the TV series begins. So this ends where the very last episode of the TV series ends. So it's a cliffhanger either way, and so um, but that's kind of cool. So, but what I wanted to do is show off the detail inside of this work. You tell I'm passionate about comics. So, I mean, this is, you know what I mean? I've seen better detail in the drawing of some of these comics, but also not always. I mean, this is some pretty detailed stuff. And some of the glossier comics, they're really, really great. Here's a face. We're really good at drawing a face and glossy and uh, beautiful characterizations and everything like that. And then in the background, it's just a atmospheric shade where you're not really getting the story of what's going on in the background. You know, so it's just like talking heads, you know, against a beautiful tone. So just to remind you of that. Well, what I'll do is I'll open this up to a random page, and we have some background, and then we'll come over here, and what's the one that, okay, this one, beautifully drawn, and then you open it up, and there's not really that much going on in the background. There's some grass here, whereas here you get details of an entire room, you know, and you have one or two panels where they're facing uh, negative space in the background, but they're close-ups. But there's, even with this, there's not, you know what I mean? It's beautiful, but you know, the detailing is pretty good here. But ultimately, even though the artwork is better in a glossy like this, it was not bad here. This is some really artistic work, you know. Um, this is, I mean, these are quality. These are artistic qualities that if they were not in comic book form, they would end up in a modern museum, you know, a pop culture museum or something like that, you know, because the work really is that detailed and that incredible, you know. And yeah, well, that was my day. I had a fun day. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Uh, love and light, peace, and goodbye. Have a nice day, nice night.